back recording at work. So again, the children are still turning up and doing the absolute most. So please excuse the noise in the background. There will be no background noise for the actual episode, but for the intro and outro, unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with. Now, on to today's episode. Listen. I think we've all been there before. We've all had our moments of self-doubt. We've had our moments where we look at social media and we see how everyone else seems to be living their best lives. And where have we fallen short? Where did we go wrong? And it's normal. It's natural. So this episode, we're exploring what social media and all these other life expectations, what it does to us, how it adds to this feeling of inadequacy, and how it's in some ways a vicious cycle. So sit back, relax, and listen to this, quote unquote, brief episode. And I'll see you on the other side. Lovers and friends, let's be real. Will we ever get to a point where we don't feel like we're behind in life? You know that feeling? When you look around and you're like, well, everyone my age is in a long-time relationship and has kids, or everyone my age has a job and, has launched their career, or everyone my age, has a postgraduate degree, and, oh my gosh, like there are people younger than me that like are further in life than I am, and man. Ugh, and even if you have the best job, right, and you're financially stable and all these other things, but you're single, there's no one there to love you, and there's always just one thing, there's something that, drags you down, or on the outside, everything looks great, but you don't feel fulfilled, and you're, low-key sad and burnt out, and everyone else just looks so well rested and like their lives feel balanced, and they genuinely seem happy, and I'm not happy, and I'm depressed, and what's wrong with me? Why don't I have those things? Why aren't I that person? Why haven't I achieved those goals? Da 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 da. I can't be the only one who feels this way sometimes. I'm sure you do too. And I promise this week's episode is going to be brief because there's really not much to say that hasn't been said already in previous episodes. But I'd like this episode to serve as a reminder that you are not behind. You are not, a failure. You haven't failed at life. You haven't failed at achieving your goals. You're still alive. You know what I mean? You're here. And as long as you're alive, there's time for you to get to where you want to go. Like I said in previous episodes about being on the N1 and, rushing to get to Cape Town, and understanding that it's not about the rush, right? It's about making sure that I get there with integrity, and that I am able to get there with everything still intact, right? And the car was the example. Or I use the car as an analogy, but it works for everything, right? You want to be in a relationship, yes, right? But are you just going to accept any Tom, Dick, and Harry who offers you a relationship for the sake of ticking that box, even if it means costing your financial health, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, all those things? Are you willing to risk your integrity, right? Mental, physical, financial integrity for the sake of that goal? Is that goal so important that you're willing to sacrifice yourself for it? And that's sometimes a question we need to ask ourselves about the things that we say we want, right? How important is this thing? And what core values am I willing to neglect to get there? And if there is not a single core value that you are willing to, neglect to get there, then you must accept that it will take time, that it's not something that's going to happen overnight, that it'll take work, it'll take effort, and that you might have to go the long way around, or you might have to go at a pace that feels slow. But as long as you don't stop, it means you'll get there, right? And unfortunately, we also need to look at our units of measurement, so the rubric that we are using to decide whether we are ahead, or to decide our position, right, in life, or how well are we doing at this adulting thing, right? Because somehow we look around and social media is the worst. It's the worst place for anyone's mental health. No matter how much you try to curate it, so that you can avoid triggering things or avoid the things that do get you in some sort of doom spiral, at the end of the day, social media will never show you the truth. Do you get what I mean? It will show you a truth, or it will show you a projection of what someone desires, right? So if you look at my Instagram, it's reels of fun times with people, and little long drives and moments in nature. These are the things that I appreciate, right? But on average, these reels are merely reflecting like 5% of my life. The last reel that I posted, in terms of the timeline, right, of those pictures cover a span of maybe 3 months, right? And in those 3 months, those little moments happened. Enough of them happened that I could, compile it into a little 30-second video. But in those 3 months, one of my students passed away, and I was experiencing deep grief. I was held up at gunpoint. I, had my life threatened. I lost a lot of valuable items, right? I wasn't had to dismiss people at work, and got involved in a really hectic and stressful disciplinary hearing, not for myself, but having to be put in that position where you have to air out someone's dirty laundry and do the uncomfortable thing, right? And be hated, and have that person send you hateful messages and say that you will be name checked in their suicide note. All those things are happening at the same time, right? People, for whatever reason, look at me and think that I'm wealthy, that I've got money to be loaning out to people. Literally, someone asked me for 9K yesterday, and the day before that, someone asked me for 3.5. But somehow, I guess because I carry myself in a particular way, or because I don't go around, broadcasting my struggles, people just assume that I have it all together, that I'm all Gucci, right? And maybe in relation to them, or relative to them, I do have a lot more than what they have. But also, what I do have a lot of are texts from my bank about insufficient funds. You know what I mean? So I don't understand. I'm struggling, and I'm constantly worried about money, right? I'm constantly, regretting my life choices, and why didn't I make better choices, and why did I do this, and why did I get myself in debt, and da 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 da, and wada, and I should have made better choices, and look at other people. And I am like the people who think that I'm wealthy. I'm looking at other people saying, oh my gosh, he's so wealthy, she's so wealthy, they put it all together, she doesn't owe anybody anything. When her money comes in, it's all hers, and wada, she owns her place, and I'm out here struggling to get a new place and about to get kicked out, and boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? And at some point, I was even worried that I wouldn't be able to feed my dog. But no one knows that, right? That's not something we put on social media. People don't tend to put the worst moments of their lives on social media unless it's some attention-seeking behavior. But more often than not, we don't know the truth of what people's lives look like. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. So we cannot really be measuring ourselves by other people's curated Instagram pages or by the few moments that we have in interaction with them where they have mentally prepared for the day, right? That they too have curated their appearance to project a particular image. Everything is curation. Everything that you see is curation, right? And yes, there are moments where the mask slips, right? Even when you're with your friends and you think like these are the people that I can truly be myself with, there are moments or there are things about yourself that you still do keep to yourself, right? Or even if you feel like you're being open and that you have a friend who you know everything about, 2 weeks from now you're going to see them in the news, convicted for some serial killing, and you'll be like, what? I never saw this coming. Not her. She was the sweetest person. Oh my gosh, it's always the quiet ones. This is the thing. You can never really know another person, never really know the truth of their being. And even if you did, you are not them. You are you. So what is the point in comparing ourselves to other people when our lives are incomparable? Our being is incomparable. We are not the same. We do not see the world in the same way. We do not have the same foundational experiences. Even if we did not process them in the same way. They did not metabolize in our bodies in the same way, in our psyche in the same way. Like, what is the point? Right? Because going back to another episode, we were talking about being humble, and I asked you, who does it serve for you to diminish yourself? Who does social media serve? What does it serve? Right? Social media exists as an advertising tool. It exists as a tool of capitalism to convince us that if we just buy this thing, if we just subscribe to this program, if we just acquire this, extra thing, then we too will be happy. We too will be satisfied with our lives, that we too will, be on track with everything. And that's not true. There's no amount of, Temu, Shein, Alibaba, Zara, H&M, the whole shebang. There's no amount of, consumerism that will quell that feeling, right? Because it's the thing that will get rid of that feeling is self-work, is also reframing a lot of our relationships with things and relationships with ourselves, right? You're running your own race, okay? Whatever you see other people having, doing, achieving, you don't know what it took for them to get there, if it took them anything at all, right? Because some people, life is just handed to them on a silver platter, and shout out to them, right? But either way, you don't know what it took, because even those people that come from generational wealth, what can you do about it? What are you going to do now? Slap your mom in the face and say, why weren't you rich? You failed at life and now look at me having to pay my own bills? Like, how does that make sense? You know what I mean? And for the other people who it wasn't handed to on a silver platter, you don't know what sort of suffering they had to go through to get there. And if you knew, would you really opt in for the things that they had to go through? Would you choose their life and their struggle just because it gets you a few extra bucks? Or the hard work and the sacrifices they had to put in? Or the values that they had to breach in order to get there quickly? We just don't know. We just don't know. So why even include them or make them factors in how you judge your life and your success, and whether you are quote unquote on track, whether you are quote unquote left behind, a failure? Because all we're doing is dooming ourselves to fail. There's no one you can compare yourself to where, you can be like, okay, yeah, cool, whatever, because the reverse could happen. You could look at people who are worse off than you and say, well, at least I don't have to go through that, and at least I don't have to go through this, and wada. But why compare in the first place? There's a difference between looking at how someone's living and having compassion for them, right? Or looking at what someone has achieved and admiring it, right? And being inspired and all of those things. Those are good things. But to then now take someone else's success, someone else's life in general, or not even their lives, just your perception of them, right? To take that and now turn that into a rubric of how you have fallen short. How is that productive in any way, shape, or form? How does that put you in the right mental state to learn from what you're seeing, right? Because I'm not even making an argument against coveting, right? That for you to covet someone's life, for you to want what someone else has, is normal and understandable. But again, like I've said in every other episode, you need to investigate within yourself where those desires are coming from, right? And if they are in alignment with your core values and the things that you want for your life in general. I think it is more important to investigate and think about how you would like your life to feel, right? What are the key elements that you would like in your life? And not sort of place it on an Instagram picture of, I want to be a CEO of a Fortune 500. I want to be married to a guy who is a CEO of a multi-million, organization. I want us to be this power couple that just, changes the world, and we're just going to be badasses, left, right, and center, and this and that, and this and that, and just boo, 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 boo. Me and my partner are going to be, coveted by everyone, and everyone's going to want to be like us, and we're going to have 3 children who are geniuses and are going to work for NASA by the age of 10, and what are you hoping to achieve by having that little vision for yourself? What does that life feel like? What core desires are you trying to meet by creating those goals for yourself? Because I think by getting to the core of it, you might find that those desires are a lot more achievable when you just focus on what you want your life to feel like. And you can look for those pockets right now, in the here and now. You can find a way to reach for those things. And then once you've reached for it, and it's just 10 minutes of your day where you finally have that moment of zen, you then expand on it, right? You've now tasted it. You want it. It's no longer just a fantasy. You actually got a piece of it. You managed to carve out a section in your life that gives you that sense of security and peace and whatever else you're looking for. And then now you can go start from there and build. As opposed to, like, Bish, you haven't even finished high school and you're telling us about being a CEO of a Fortune 500. I'm not saying it's impossible, but what do you do in the meantime? Is everything you do, everything you are, worthless until you become that thing? And that's how we find ourselves in the cycle, feeling like we're never good enough, always trying to chase the next thing instead of being content in the here and now. And how we do that is by also acknowledging how much we've grown. I was talking to my therapist and he was walking me through this labyrinth, explaining that, like, with the labyrinth, you're making progress as you move towards the center, and the center can be any goal, any desire that you have for your life, right? So you make steps and you move towards the goal, but as you look at this labyrinth, there are sections that sort of turn away, the little columns and the tubes that eventually lead you to the center, that sometimes they turn away from the center and you kind of feel like you're moving back towards the outer, part of the labyrinth, and that without acknowledging the progress that you've made to get to that point, but just looking geographically, you might feel like you've made no progress at all. But the progress is in the fact that, yes, you may be in the same area, but now you are inside the wall as opposed to outside the wall. And that by being inside, yes, the situation might be the same, but you're not the same, right? You've grown, you've learned things. As you've gone on this journey, you've learned things about yourself. And now you can look at the situation differently. The mere fact that you recognize the fact that you've been in this situation before is proof positive that you've changed, because in the past you could never even recognize patterns in your life, right? But by comparing yourself to other people, by constantly marking yourself as a failure, you'll never have the room to celebrate yourself. You'll never have the room to acknowledge the work that you've done, and never have the room to really grow and learn. Because you can't learn by comparing yourself to other people. You learn by comparing yourself to yourself. Comparing the self that you want, the self that you desire to be, not based on, what social media says you should have, but really and truly looking within yourself and seeing what your core desires are, right? The things that you really need to feel whole. And those things are not material things, right? Having millions and millions and millions in your bank account is not something that's going to feed a core desire. The desire for financial security and not having to worry about whether your needs are going to be met, that's a core desire, right? And now what can you do in the here and now to reduce your financial stress, to reduce your worries about, having your needs met? And that could be simple things like budgeting, reducing your subscriptions to unnecessary apps, and this, that, and the other. There's a wide variety of things you can do to limit your financial stress and to get you closer to that security. And by acknowledging that your desire to be a millionaire is driven by your fear of poverty, because maybe you grew up poor and you never want to find yourself there again, that can then highlight the healing work that you need to do, that you need to maybe see a therapist or talk to someone or read some books that can help you deal with that trauma, so that your relationship with money can also be healthy. Because people have traumatic relationships with money. It could be, saving and constantly panicking, but it could also be excessive spending, right? All these things, by understanding what is driving your actions, what is driving your desires, allows you to refocus your attention on the things that truly matter. And by making decisions now that then lead you to where you want to be. But by constantly having your eyes either on the past, looking at yourself with judgment and shame, or looking at the future and filling yourself with anxiety and also shame for not being there already, right? It makes the now very unproductive, and it makes you waste your time. And the thing is, time just keeps marching on. Nobody's going to wait for you to finally wake up and realize that, you should have been doing the work now instead of waiting for the achievements and the accolades to come. That it takes a lot of work for anyone to become successful, and no one ever sees that work, right? Even in the Olympics, when you see these Olympians and they're doing amazing things, they were grinding hard. They made sacrifices. Their social lives suck. Financially, they might be in ruins because of all the equipment and coaching and everything, and they're traveling, to the competition so they can qualify for this and this, that, and the other. You don't know what sacrifices they made to get to where they are, the amount of hours that they put in. And you need to ask yourself whether you're willing to do the same thing. But either way, here and now, you need to celebrate yourself and stop comparing yourself to other people. Even when you talk to athletes, they are not fussed about what other people are doing, right? They can talk lovingly about their competitors and say, oh my gosh, yeah, I admire so and so for this, that, and the other. But when they're training to beat their personal record. That's how they keep going, to say, okay, cool. This time I only, was able to deadlift 100 kilograms. Let me keep doing 100 kilograms until it feels like light work. And then I'm going to move up to 110 and then 120 and then. Yes, you can look at, what's the world record? What's the heaviest anyone has lifted? Wow, I want to do that. And set that as a goal. That's wonderful. To say that that's something, that's a goal that I want to work towards. Something achievable, something to set your eyes on, right? And the goal also doesn't have to be achievable, right? But it can be super crazy, but it's just something to set your eyes on, right? A guiding light, but not something that you're going to use as the stick to beat yourself. To say that the person who set that record was 12 when they did it. That the world record for deadlifting is 5,000 kilograms and a 12-year-old did it. And here I am at the big ass age of 31 and I can't even lift 100. What's wrong with me? But that's what we do. That's what we do. Instead of acknowledging someone's greatness, acknowledging someone's achievements, admiring it, celebrating them, and sort of being inspired to reach the same goals or to surpass those goals, right? And having a positive relationship with those things and the world around us and the things that other people do. Instead, we sit and we punish ourselves for not being them. Instead of celebrating ourselves for not being the old version of ourselves. And that the version of me now has the wherewithal to achieve those goals, to work towards those goals. That, you know what? A couple of years ago, I wouldn't have even believed in myself. I wouldn't have even considered trying weightlifting because I considered myself to be weak and useless. But here I am, I'm in the gym and I'm lifting stuff. Like, what? That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I've grown so much. I can't wait to see how far I go. I think that's a better way to look at things. Not to see how far other people have gone, but to look forward to seeing how far we can go. That's it. We're not competing with anyone. No one wakes up in the morning and is excited to make you feel small. Nobody's thinking about you. Everybody is just trying to run their own race, trying to survive, trying to be their best selves, trying whatever. We're all just trying. And to now look at a curated version of that person, be it in real life or on social media, and to set that as the standard and to make that the reason why you feel like a failure, useless, unproductive. And honestly, it's the reason why we stay stagnant, because that type of thinking doesn't inspire motion. It doesn't encourage us to keep going. Instead, you end up just wallowing in this pit of despair. I'm useless. I'm a failure. Oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. So what? And then, what is it going to do? Nothing. So yeah, I really want us to think about who is controlling what matters and what doesn't matter in our lives. Are we going to let social media, capitalism, consumerism, is that going to control our self-esteem and how we value ourselves? We're going to let an algorithm set by racists and people who want to sell you shampoo and Temu vacuums. Are we going to let those people decide our self-worth? people who don't care about us, people who have no interest in knowing about us. Some stranger who decided to post a cute picture of their dog on a walk, and now we're feeling all miserable because I don't have a dog and I don't have the time to take a walk and watch the sunset. Really? Let's be serious. Let's take ourselves seriously for once. And let's value ourselves and the progress that we've made to get to this point. And if you feel like you haven't made a lot of progress, or you feel like you haven't made enough progress, then fine. Make that a goal. That I actually want to grow and learn. And growing and learning is not going to come from punishing yourself for not being Steve Jobs. Growing and learning can come from maybe reading Steve Jobs' memoir, seeing, what sort of principles and values guided, his journey, learning from people, admiring people in a non-possessive, non-judgmental, non-self-flagellating way. You can appreciate people from afar without having to make it about you, because it's not about you. People do not succeed in the hopes of making everyone else feel small. Yeah, they're those petty bitches, right? Who literally just get swole just to intimidate hoes. Fine. But then are you going to play chicken with those hoes and buck when they look at you? No, you stand firm in who you are, believe in yourself, and even if those hoes come around trying to make you feel small, they won't be able to, because they don't hold power over you. The only thing that matters is you and how far you've come and how far you plan on going. That's it. The only person who's going to make you fail is you. The only person who decides whether you're a failure is you, not society. What the fuck does society know? In America, society has voted an idiot into presidency. So are we really, really going to make a bunch of strangers, people that can't even vote in their own best interests, we're going to let those bitches decide that we're a failure or a success? Like, come on. Yeah, anyway, not like South Africa is any better, because we stay voting against our own best interests as well. But the point remains. Stop looking for external validation. It's never going to taste as sweet as you think it is. It's just a drug. It's just there to keep you hooked. It's there to make sure that you keep buying the latest whatever. That's it. Because you, in that spiral of despair, become susceptible to all sorts of external influences and the false promise of peace, love, and acceptance that you've always wanted. When really the peace, love, and acceptance that you really want is something you have to give to yourself. The only way it's sustainable is for it to come from within. So do the work to get to that point where the only thing that should matter is you saying, yep. By my own standards, I really am making progress. Because if that bitch had caught me like a year ago, I would have choked her out on sight. But now I can genuinely just nod and smile at her and keep it pushing. Look at me. Look at growth. You don't have to now look at Kamala Harris and say, well, at her age, she became vice president, and I'm nowhere near that. I'm not even anywhere in politics. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So what? Because even with all her achievements, people are still trying to diminish her achievements by bringing up her sex life. Like, you can never make these hoes happy. So stop trying to please them. As long as you are happy with your life and where you're going, that's all that matters. Don't let these hoes get you down. And by these hoes, I mean social media and all these other people putting on masks. They're doing what they need to do to get through the day. They're not doing it so that you can feel small. You're making yourself feel small. Stop it. You're better than this. So that's it from me. I hope you understand that we're all running our own race, as cliche as it sounds. Something that sounded really profound to me when I was having a bit of road rage while driving with my mother was she just casually said, I'm gonna drive my car and you drive yours, talking to the driver that was accosting us on the road. And that's basically how life is. You can't concern yourself with what other people are doing and sort of making what they're doing with their life about you. Everybody is just doing them. So you do you. And don't compare yourself with others because comparison is the thief of joy. Take pleasure in your own life. Enjoy it. Honor your life. Honor yourself. Honor your choices. And yes, it is always great to learn from other people, to seek inspiration from other people, all those wonderful things. But at the end of the day, you have to go to bed and be okay with the choices that you made. So make good choices, and good choices for you, not good choices for the next person, because the next person doesn't give a shit about you. They're driving their car. All you have to do is drive yours. See you next time.